Hello and welcome to the latest edition of Access All Areas Backstage podcast. I'm here with Luke Mitchell, the co-founder and creative director of Boomtown. We're 3 weeks away from the festival beginning. For you right now, what's the average day look like?
Well, it's pretty chaotic. There's a lot going on. There's probably maybe 500 people on site, I'd say. And there's so many bits of the puzzle that make up Boomtown that it's just trying to figure out how they all slot together. And really my role is to I often explain it's like sitting in the middle of a whirlwind. And if I can find that sweet spot in the middle, then I'm okay. But if I touch the edges, even slightly, I'll get swept up. And then so that's me.
It does sound kind of precarious. So you've got to trust. Is that your team creating that whirlwind around you?
It's just the fabric of the event.
So how did you get here? I mean, how did you get to the stage where you're organising one of the best known, one of the biggest and best regarded, I guess, festivals in the UK summer calendar?
As a kid, I had a really big imagination. I'd always build big sand cities, the beach, or big Lego cities, or big elaborate tree houses. So really, my imagination was always and I was always fascinated with other worlds as well. But as I went through my teen years, and my mum took me to Glastonbury when I was really young, and I remember just thinking, wow, and I think something inside me said I want to do this one day. I was always really into music. I was in various bands, punk bands and heavy metal bands, and so kind of fell into the music scene, I suppose, and then started putting on gigs at school, putting on events at school, and it kind of grew from there, really. I guess, when I was 18, I put on my first kind of big event, and I then really kind of fell into the free party scene, the underground free party scene, and that was just fascinating. All of a sudden, understanding or that feeling of freedom and escapism, and thousands of people coming together, and just that energy was just fascinating for me. And ended up doing a lot of raving all around Europe, putting on big events, big free festivals, really, with lots of other groups, and just for years we did that. We were going around Europe, and just absolutely just the most incredible years. But then came back to the UK, and it was at that time when it felt, and I don't know if this is true, but it felt like the government or councils relaxed the laws around licensing a little bit, with a view of trying to get more events to do it in a legal way. And we were like, let's do this. We didn't have a clue what we were doing, literally, and we didn't even know what a license was. And but we launched this event, and we were hoping for 500 people to turn up, and about 1,500 people turned up. And we were like, okay, wow. And on that first festival as well, we a few days before the festival, we realised that we needed a car park, and we'd never done an event with a car park before. So we could, oh my God, we need a car park. And then, so it was right at the beginnings, but the experience was really creative, and it was just really fun, and the audience had an amazing time despite all of the problems. And then it's kind of sort of grew, and it was at that point as well I met my business partner Chris, who's the other co-founder of Boomtown. And Chris came from more of a kind of club background, I suppose, and it's just got the most fascinating brain as well. I mean, it just, the way his brain works just baffles me, and very much kind of looks at detail, analyses things, and we just work really, really well together, and have been, best mates ever since for me. It's a really beautiful relationship. And well,
Excellent. Okay. And I understand that you did carpentry and built speakers. I mean, has that kind of helped you in a way? I mean, obviously, you're a creative director. Do you actually kind of, get involved in building anything? You're obviously involved in the design of it, but how useful is that?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I did a carpentry apprenticeship when I was, as soon as I left school. It kind of is a sort of fallback plan. I've always loved carpentry and loved building things. I love set building. I love set design. Start building speakers and then just constantly building more and more speakers and stacking them up and building up. And so that side really fueled the energy for the events, the parties, I suppose. But yeah, it was a big crew of us, and that's really important to always mention. It's just definitely, although, myself and Chris would hold the space, really is, it's the buy-in and the passion energy from, hundreds of people, now thousands.
Is it pretty much a 12-month focus for you? I presume you have a core team that does work on the festival year round, but can you just talk us through exactly how that works in terms of how many people are working on it as a year-round project, and then how that sort of builds in terms of the numbers to the point where we are now, 3 weeks before the event?
Yeah, so there's 40 of us all year round, split into 7 different departments, and it quite blows me away. We're quite a kind of well-oiled machine these days, actually. 15 years at Boomtown this year, and it does blow me away a little bit, because I never set out to run a business, sort of set out to put on parties basically, and then we found in ourselves, and a lot of us have been working together for over a decade, and we're now we were always the young festival, and now we're not. We are one of the older festivals now, and they're really I'd call us really kind of mature festival, really, in terms of our operational structure and the way that we deliver the event. And we've gone through a lot as well. We've gone through huge disasters and stuff over the years. And we just learn every single time, just embrace them and fix them. Yeah, so there's a big group all year round, and I just had James, who's our lead programmer, just on the phone earlier saying, I've got this app for next year and this app. So we're all we have to look at the artists now for 2024, otherwise we don't get them. So it's over 12 months, and then the team, it builds up to a few hundred for the few months before we come on site, and then it just builds up to thousands.
Boomtown is seen and regarded as pretty much one of the most complex productions of any festivals, really, outside of Glastonbury. Have you kind of reached the point where you feel like, obviously you're going to refresh it, obviously there's a different theme every year, but in terms of its sort of size and scale, are you happy with the level it's at now?
Everyone wants to grow. It's in human nature, isn't it? How can we be better next year? How can we deliver our piece right down to a kind of window installation in one of the streets? That person's going to come back and say, I'm going to do a bit better next time. So that kind of all the way down means that the whole festival, and it's why Boomtown's grown so quickly. We doubled in size every year until we couldn't because of license conditions. And what it was as well in the early years as well, we would put on this really creative show and experience, but there would be huge problems in the back end and the operations, and the local authority they were like, look, you guys, in the really early years, they were like, you're not doing this.
Right.
You're not doing, and unless you put this and this in place, and costing us huge amounts of money, millions. And they were, I guess at that time, they were probably hoping it would just go away.
Yeah, right.
But we were in a position just to sell more tickets and put all these measures in place. But at the same time, we didn't want to just put all these operational kind of structures in place and not you put the ticket price up and sell more tickets and then not give the audience anything else. So the creative would lift up and the whole thing just, it just grew at this ridiculous rate. And I think anyone in the kind of, in the periphery and outside of Boomtown was just looking in, just thinking, who the hell are these lunatics? What are they doing? Yeah.
But you've kind of gone through extreme weather situations, haven't you? And and I guess once you get to the point where you are now, you've experienced so many sort of extremes, and you've had to tick so many boxes with the local authorities and everything else. I guess it's pretty streamlined. But what have been the biggest kind of learnings over the years? What have been the big kind of? You mentioned that earlier on. There's been a couple of disasters, which sounds kind of ominous. Can you give us a couple of examples of what those were and what the big learnings were from them?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, one year we had about 3 weeks torrential rain on the build, and it was torrential, and we couldn't get vehicles on site. Chris, he managed to flag down a motorway road, a motorway like building company. They were actually building some roads. Convinced them to come down and just stop building roads to get people in. This was the day before we opened the festival. And then what we knew is that this weather from us could move. And this land's beautiful actually. It drains really quickly. It's like a foot of soil, and then it's chalk, so the water just drains. So we knew we could get through to show the land would dry out and it would work. So we were holding out there. And then the festival opened, and the power company and the infrastructure just wasn't in place to deal with the gates, and we had big, huge queues on the gates coming in, and it was just really baking hot, and everyone had 2 weeks worth of rain, so they all turned up without water and sun cream, and it was horrific. Traumatizing, really. I've had to do. I've had to do therapy since to get over situations like that.
Yeah. So it's pretty intense. But so, I mean, obviously, there are joyous moments, and obviously you wouldn't be doing it. I mean, what are you most excited about this year?
Well, I mean, we love it. We just love we love being in community. We're as humans, we're meant to live in community. So living here with hundreds of our friends, opening the door of the bus or the caravan or whatever, and just being there and eating with your friends, and that is just beautiful. We've all known each other for years now, so I love that. I just love the creativity. We set ideas, we set people up with ideas, and then kind of let them go really, and they always come back better than we ever imagined as well. So although I've got a view of the entire festival, there's always unknowns there, so I'm excited about that. In the way that we've kind of over the years, we've really kind of honed in and focused on knowing exactly who we are as a festival as well, because if I'd had this interview a few years ago and you'd said, explain Boomtown, I wouldn't be able to have really explained it, because we were trying to do so many different things. And there were so many different people that had different agendas or different passions that we were going all in different directions. And then COVID came in and just gave us that moment to pause and reflect and understand about who we actually were, and what we were. My core ethos was as a festival, because obviously if we don't know, the audience aren't going to know, and it's the whole thing is a bit fragmented. So we now know that we are this living theatre that ignites the imagination, inspires the emergence of a better world, and we do this through creativity, connection and celebration, and that is us really. So we create this living, breathing town with this running sort of annual message that sort of pins into something that we feel really is really important, but for the current outside world. So last year was very much about environmental. This year's diving into mental health issues, but also doing it in a really creative way as well, And so although the messages sometimes come in quite hard, it will be the message will hit there, and then there'll be a celebration of being this festival experience to kind of finale as well. Because we do know people just want to escape from all of these, these spaces. But it is a perfect opportunity with a festival like Boomtown and a running story that kind of cuts through to inspire, to inspire people that might otherwise have missed it.
Yeah, and I guess like Glastonbury, people come to this festival for the experience, for the overarching experience that you've created. Obviously you have a different theme, as you say, each year, but it's very much it's an immersive experience. Whereas you're not just standing in front of a big stage with big screens and household name bands necessarily. So you've kind of taken it way beyond that. And I guess your ability to kind of not to go on sale without announcing the lineup this year is similar to what Glastonbury is so able, so comfortably able to do. But I mean, that's quite brave to do that. But is that very much what you're doing there? Really, you're just sort of emphasising that this is an event, it's an experience rather than just a straight festival with a lineup of bands.
Yeah, well, we've because we've all grown up in Glastonbury. It's like going home when we go to Glastonbury, and all our crew there. Most of the crew here do the southeast corner and all the different areas there. If we didn't just want to be another like a smaller version of Glastonbury. We wanted to really step away and have our own kind of model and identity, and so we've worked really hard to be to create this different space and kind of I suppose reach an audience or connect with an audience that is away from the traditional kind of festival audience, in a sense by really like tapping into the immersive theatre and the gaming side of things, and so I guess that's what we've been trying to do there.
Yeah. And I mean, as you sort of when you're 15th Boomtown, I mean the industry's kind of evolved a lot in that period of time, hasn't it? I mean there's quite often conversations around it, the festival market being sort of saturated. I mean, how do you feel the wider sort of market and your place of bidding? Do you feel like that the industry is in a really good, the festival industry is in a really good place at the moment? Do you feel like there's too many artists, too many festivals, or do you feel like it's just? I mean, I'm just trying to gauge your feeling for the sort of wider festival environment, really. I mean,
well, in fact, actually, I mean, when we first sort of introduced Boomtown, the market was really saturated at that point. And we knew quite quickly that we had to do something different if we were going to be able to survive, because we had no financial support, or there wouldn't have been an option of it not working. So right from the beginnings, even 15 years ago, I feel like it's been quite saturated. And I feel now, there are a lot of festivals struggling with tickets this year. So I'd say it's we're fine, and I think we do appeal to an audience that they're pretty loyal to Boomtown. We get a lot of people that return, and but this might be or not.
I mean, how much of a focus is there on kind of you build a community? You talk about community and people that are actually working on the event, but if you've got a loyal ticket buyers, if you like, people coming back every year, you've kind of got a community out there that want to immerse themselves in your event each year. So how much focus is there on kind of communicating and marketing to that audience throughout the year? Obviously you've got the build up to your event, the ticket sales, the announcement of artists, and the event itself, but is it a year-round focus?
Yeah, I'd say it is. Yeah, we're really lucky that we've got a forum that was set up by some members of the audience called Boomtown Chat, and that's just incredible for us, because they manage it themselves, and it's a really great space where there is a community there, and you can get info and feels an all year round thing. So we're really fortunate.
Yeah. And I mean, talking about ticket sales, I mean, obviously, you're in a position where it looks like it's going to sell out, but it will sell out this year, which is brilliant. But it has been a challenging year for a lot of festival operators, with costs going through the roof, and the need to kind of raise ticket prices at a time when consumers have less spending power than they have for a long time. So how challenging has that side of things been, in terms of having to cope with these escalating costs?
Oh man, it's been really, really tough. Like, especially the scale of what we deal with here, hundreds of marquees, hundreds of containers. And I mean, we took the decision not to release our lineup, and So to still manage to sell out without releasing the lineup is good. So proud actually of that. But it was moments in February, March, whenever it was releasing their lineups, and we were thinking, God, we could just release ours now and it would sell really quickly. So a lot of people I do know they're not ready to sort of trust something without knowing who's playing, especially that amount of money. It's a lot of money there. And but the rise in costs and then coming out of COVID was horrific. It was really difficult, huge, I think 30-40% additional on our infrastructure. So we're talking millions just to be in infrastructure. And luckily we managed to put the ticket price up and people still invested in us and took the, they took the risk. We're really, really lucky on that front. But this year again, it's gone up again. God, even with a sellout festival, we are going to be on the line of breaking even.
Yeah. I mean, it must take a certain type of person to do this kind of thing. You've got to have a really, a bravery and an energy, and a remarkable energy to kind of pull this sort of thing off. How immersed are you kind of in this project year in, year out?
We've got another organisation, Wait the Tiger. Sure. I sort of do half and half. The team are just incredible. I just can't. I stand back sometimes and just think, how the hell did we end up with this team? I feel like it's we've got the best in the country really, of just in terms of the experience and how well they held it, and it just allows me to sit over the top. So Chris as well. I'm really disciplined as well. I'm really good at making sure I do exercise and meditations and just things that just kind of ground me, because you can end up spiraling into kind of fears and thoughts in your head, and spending time just walking through nature, spending time just playing with my children, and just connecting with my wife, and that just creates. I've managed to over the years create a really nice balance actually with work and which is the only way it can happen really.
If you had a sort of friend or family or young person who came to you to sort of ask for your advice as to whether they should get involved in the festival industry, whether they should try and launch a festival, what would you advise? What would you say?
So the three things is you need ambition, you need to take serious risks, and you need to be prepared to seriously work. When I was 21, 22 and first festival was just starting, I was working, I would say 20-hour days. I was living in a shared house and all my friends were going out, raving, coming back, and I was still on a computer like that, and I was so focused, and I did that 7 days a week for months, and we had no money whatsoever at all, but I think there was no way this festival wasn't going to happen. It was just, and that focus and dedication, and then ultimately is what has managed to manifest this, I suppose.
Yeah. And sort of looking back, I mean, over the last 15 years or so, what have been the kind of real highlights for the points that you just kind of maybe just looked around and you thought, God, I'm so proud of this. This is worth all the sleepless nights, 20-hour days, or whatever there might be. What are the kind of landmark moments, if you like, for you?
Wow, there's so many. I mean, just opening the gates is always a landmark moment. But just seeing the thousands of people running through, this is their big thing for the year, setting up the tents and just that energy. I think introducing the opening and closing ceremonies has been massive, because it's an opportunity where the whole festival comes together and we open it in this spectacular way, and we set the kind of intentions of the festival and the message of the year, and then we close it out in this spectacular way in the main stages at the end. I think that's just the ever evolving kind of the whole thing is moving. There's always pop-up parties kicking off. There's performers dragging people into different spaces. There's roaming art vehicles and rave vehicles, and just people just the unexpected situations and occurrences that happen deep in the kind of areas of downtown. I just love it. It blows me away every time, sort of, and I feel really honoured to just even be part of this experience. It's a really beautiful thing.
Brilliant. I wanted to sort of ask about the Association of Independent Festivals are launching a campaign to try and get £18 tickets available for 18-year-olds, a little bit like they do in various places in Europe, where kids are around that age when we give them a €250 ticket to spend on culture, to try and invest and encourage young people to immerse themselves and spend on culture, really, which is I think a fantastic idea. Are there any concerns that post-pandemic some of younger people are not engaging in festivals the way they might have done beforehand? I know that I've seen some research suggesting that there are sort of a demographic that are a little bit less likely to come out, but I think research was done maybe 6, 7, 8 months ago. It's a bit close to the pandemic. Maybe it's not quite the case now, but are there any concerns that that we do need to, as an industry, to push to get younger people engaged in festivals?
I've no idea, really. I think there's always an influx of young people that are going to want to be out and celebrate and experience festivals. So we haven't seen a problem there for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. We have half our audience is generally between 18 and 25, and it's amazing. Just seeing them come and seeing this for the first time, and of course, from our perspective, it's just a really beautiful thing that we can then introduce these kind of these values as an organisation as well, and messages that in a really kind of creative way. I really love it.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, obviously, we're talking about kind of the ability of festivals to kind of create these alternative kind of universes, if you like, where people can immerse themselves in a different environment and maybe actually take messages home with them, hopefully, about behaving differently to living a bit better, essentially. And it's Glastonbury's kind of been doing that for years and years, and you're doing that here as well with you mentioned the sustainability was obviously the kind of environmental issue was obviously the theme last year. It kind of runs through the event. What are the kind of key things that you're doing to minimise the environmental footprint of the event?
We as a team, it's absolutely front and centre, the environment of everything we do. We have a whole department, green department, every single aspect of the festival we've looked at and been like, right, how can we do this so it minimises the impact around. Amazing things. I mean, all the decoration now is made from recycled renewable materials. We're growing foliage that's decorating stages. We've actually just built a big plastic press that we get all the plastic from supermarkets, and then we press it in on this machine, and then we mould that into decoration. All of the paint is now plastic free. We've managed to find a big source of that. We don't polycarb anymore. We come up with constantly, and I think that's the beauty. That's when an organisation is led from a creative and it's got this imagination at the heart of it, we can imagine what the world can look like and how you can do things differently. It's not stuck. And so there's bigger kind of projects where looking at exploring how we can run mains in and running off of solar energy. All of the generators are now run through reused cooking oil. So our carbon is dropped down by it's dropped right down in terms of our impact now, and nothing goes to landfill anymore.
When it comes to sustainable measures you can take at the event, is there anything that's kind of really impressed you recently? Are there any kind of new technologies coming in that you feel will make a real difference in the coming years?
I think it's just awareness. it's normal and it's cool to try and save the world. So I think it's just this big opening and awareness of everything. Even our crew food now, we just asked everyone to bring their own plates and their cutlery and wash them up afterwards. When we've done years of just boxes being thrown away, and we thought, it's just, how's this going to go down? Is it going to be just it's an annoyance, for the crew? And everyone's just embraced it.
Great stuff. And obviously, we're sitting on the edge of this amazing bowl, where everything is going to be going crazy in 3 weeks' time. What is it about this site that kind of, attracted you back in, 2011 you did the first one here? How did you come to kind of bring the event here, and what was it that kind of lured you to this location?
Yes, so we moved to a couple of locations, and then we'd heard, in fact, actually, we were here for a Blade Festival. I was here, and we phoned up the farmer, Pebble, and met him and his family. They embraced it, and when we first got here, we didn't see the potential in it, actually, and but then we just discovered it's got so much more to it than all the wooded areas, and we've really learned to love it over the years, and it's got this energy, and it's just it's got a lot of incredible history as well. I imagine that because it's so iconic, it's an old glacier that did melted the ice, glacier ice, I think. It wasn't actual glacier, but it was the melt from it. But it eroded it all out. So for thousands of years, it's been in this way, and there would have been, there absolutely would have been ceremonies and festivals and gatherings on this land, and we're another part of that story.
And you obviously have a strong relationship with the landowner now and the local authorities. I mean, you've always sort of mentioned that it's quite difficult, or almost as if they were discouraging you. But now I guess that relationship's much stronger. I mean, obviously see the financial benefits and everything else too.
It's incredible. The big meetings that we have with the local authority beforehand, they really are you guys just get on with it, we trust you, and we've got an amazing relationship. Well, we've sort of grown together, really. It's been a big challenge for them having a festival this size on their doorstep. So, but the two we've just worked through to this, what is now really incredible, solid ground, I suppose.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, and so, you've got 3 weeks before the gates are open. What are the kind of priorities for you in the next few weeks? What's I mean, I'm always, there's a lot of nerves there about, are we going to get it all done in time? Thousands of pieces of the puzzle have all got clipped together. But we've done this a lot. We've done this a lot of times now, and it's the site is transformed from last year in terms of the set and scenery detail, the production value, every single piece of the puzzle is lifted up another notch. And I just can't wait to see it all in action. Great stuff. Okay, and once obviously once it's done, you've got the breakdown and everything else. Hopefully you don't have a breakdown. I mean, how do you kind of relax and unwind after a huge kind of event like this?
Yeah, so I will get off the site probably earlier than a lot of the team here, and then squeeze in some time away with Rach and the kids, and that's my world. And so to be able to have that moment before they go back to school, this kind of gives a gap there.
Yeah,
and that'll be phone switched off emotionally.
Brilliant stuff. All right, well, thanks very much for taking time to talk to me today. Thanks very much. Good to see you.
Very much.
Cheers.